Selling in a challenging economy is not an easy task. I mean, people are doing all kinds of crazy stuff out here, but you know what? We need to do better. The days of the order takers are long gone. And on today's episode, Alex Levin is going to break down what exactly sales professionals can do to ensure that they're generating consistent pipeline, and obviously how you can close that pipeline. I mean, the things that he's sharing right now, the principle, come on, man. This is like, you should be paying to listen to this stuff. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And I'm excited to have Alex on the show. Well, Alex runs an organization where he's a co-founder, Regal.io. You can find their information and their hiring. He has this on LinkedIn. You can check out his LinkedIn profile. But Alex come with a wealth of experience, not only from his experience selling, but leading organizations, and also now leading how they're leading their company, and the process that they're going down and the things that they're doing. It's really phenomenal. And I want you to be able to connect with him and learn about some of the cool things that he's doing. You can find all the information in the show notes. Now, if this is your first time listening to our podcast, please subscribe, as well as share this episode with one other team member, somebody else that you know that can benefit from it, because I promise they're going to walk away with tremendous value. In this economy right now, the way that we're selling, it can't be the same way that we sold last year. We have to try new things. And it's important if we're going to continue to thrive and to survive. So check out what Alex has to share. See how you can apply these things to your life and to your sales approach. And let's see if we can take you to the next level. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm pumped for this. I'm really looking forward to it. And I think for many of us as sales professionals, I think it's fair to say that this topic is on our mind, like, consistently right now. How can I sell during these challenging times? And how can I make sure that I'm consistently building pipeline? People are still out there. Businesses still need our services for the most part. Now, how do I grab their attention? But before we dive into all the fun stuff talking about this, I would love to hear from you a little bit more about you, man, and what you do.
Yeah, of course. So a little bit about my background. So I was a liberal arts undergrad and then eventually became a product manager at some tech companies. Luckily, I understood relatively early that tech companies were the future and every company would be a tech company.
I lost you, Alex.
And I worked for B2C businesses for a while. And then it's only 2 years ago that I switched and started a B2B SaaS company. And I always say I wish somebody 10 years ago had tapped me on the shoulder and told me about B2B SaaS. It's definitely the most phenomenal business model ever invented, where you have very predictable revenue. You can work very closely with your customers and build the software that they need. It's high margin. So if you need to take money to invest, you can. If you make mistakes, you can go and fix it. So, I definitely proselytize about B2B SaaS. Specifically, our company Regal offers software for B2C sales teams. So we worked in the home services industry before, and we work with a lot of home services businesses now, a lot of insurance, lending, healthcare, education. So businesses that are more considered, that are moving online, have self-serve, but need to have a human touch in addition to the self-serve they have online. And our big differentiation at Regal is that instead of just treating everybody the same and dialing for dollars, we've built a system that allows companies to use the first-party data, the behavioral data that they're getting on what customers are doing to drive personalization in their sales, when they're contacting people, what channel they're using, what they're saying. And it leads to very high engagement rates, about 30% on average, which is 10x what you'd get from an email, for instance, and then very high conversion rates on the phone by giving agents tools they need, leading to quite a lot of incremental revenue for these brands. So to date, we've driven over $1 billion in revenue for our customers, which is pretty good in under 2 years.
That's not too shabby there, man. That's pretty nice. Some pretty big numbers to boast there. I love that. So with this, obviously you guys come with some experience here, and you come with some wisdom that can definitely help us out. So, this is really cool, and I'm excited for this. So clearly you guys can bring some knowledge to the table and bring some experience when it comes to the topic at hand. So looking at the economy the way it is, and looking at the way that, just like the world and all that's going on, it is not far-fetched to say that it's more challenging, or it will get more challenging depending on what industry you're in. But when it comes towards tough times like this, how can I still make sure that I'm still relevant and I can still build pipeline? Because getting new deals at the top of the funnel and getting those deals to progress through is on everybody's mind. Lay it out on me.
Yeah,
Guide me here,
well,
Alex.
a couple of things. For sure. So a few things to start with. So first, the world is different. And so I think what happened is there was sort of the world in the normal secular pre COVID times. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and a lot of businesses that were online businesses saw, more growth in 8 weeks than they'd seen in 10 years. And some people said, I'm a pattern matcher. And they started hiring as if that was going to happen forever. I think we've seen now that that didn't happen forever. And we've reverted to the secular sort of trend of, people moving online. So it's still right that people are buying online more than before. It's still right that all these sort of internet businesses and technology businesses are going to do well, but they're not going to grow that same rate they did in the first 8 weeks of COVID. And so I think some companies overhired and are having to correct now. So I don't think there's any long-term structural issues in the industry, but certainly high interest rates, more uncertainty globally with potential wars on the horizon, and this sort of correction where people overhire and then have to fire are causing it's causing some uncertainty, which is leading to slowdowns in a lot of B2B buying processes. So it won't last forever, but we are in this special phase. I think first thing, leaders need to go to their companies and say, this is a different world. Something is different. If you've only ever gone to work since 2009, or maybe 2010, you've never seen a world where this has happened. So a lot of the workforce has never seen this, right?
That
Everything
is
has been
true.
up and to the right for them. So pause, say this is different. We're going to have a hard year or two. Doesn't mean the business is going to do badly, but it's going to be something new for you. So I think that's first.
Mhm.
I think second, if you're on the sales side, this is still a huge opportunity. Yes, businesses are going to cut out extraneous spend. So the one I always pick on, and I apologize if anybody's from Notion, but I always pick on Notion. If you're buying Notion for 100 grand a year, and your CFO comes in and says, "Hey, you get Google Apps for free, or you get Notion for 100 grand a year," should we still be paying for that? It's really hard to make an ROI case. So for things that are costs where there's no ROI, it's going to be really hard. I'm sorry, I don't have any advice for you.
Yeah.
Different problem. But if you're a product that offers value, meaning you're driving incremental revenue, you're cutting costs for the business, you're doing something they wanted to do, internally, but it was too expensive, and now you can do it externally more cheaply or better. Great. If you're going to do that, that's a fantastic business. Businesses are still going to continue doing it. Gartner, I think, just did a survey where they showed there's still going to be 17% year-over-year growth in SaaS spend. So people are still going to buy all this stuff. So the world is not ending. You're still going to have plenty of sales cycle. A few sort of tips that I give our team, at least when I think about making that pipeline number. So one, maybe for the last 2 years, there have been times where people just come in and you're more of an order taker than anything else. They're ready to buy. They're there. That's happening. You're not going to be an order taker anymore. You're now going to be a salesperson. Invest in your craft, develop your craft. Don't just expect that things are going to be handed to you. I definitely think in my career, I learned much more in times where I had to do the hard work than in times where it was easy. So this is a good opportunity to invest in that. Go ahead and do it, and you'll do very well. So two, learn how to create urgency specifically. So it's part of being a great salesperson, and it's something that not everyone had to learn because they were an order taker. So as an example, how do you encourage companies to understand the money they'll lose by not doing it now? How do you help them understand what competitors are doing so they see it as a competitive thing? How do you create artificial or real scarcity in your product? If your team can only onboard 2 customers a month, and they want to get it in, they need to tell you now if they're going to buy. Otherwise, you won't be able to onboard them for 6 months. You've now just created scarcity and urgency from that. How do you make sure that you're talking about what's happening in the world? There are a lot of different things that can create urgency. I think the one that everyone falls back on is discounting, but it doesn't have to be discounting. The ones I mentioned before are good ones as well. But learn how to create urgency. And then the last thing is I'd highly encourage people, now that the world is opening up, to go back to conferences. Buyers are going to conferences. It is probably the best single way to find the right people and actually engage them in a real conversation. So don't just do online marketing. Actually find the conference that's right for your industry or the conferences, and show up and go talk to people and learn what's going on. I think you're going to find that's a great source of new prospects. And then for existing prospects, it's a great way to have that connection, make sure they're thinking about it, and push that deal forward very quickly. the last one that I'll just encourage everybody is do things that don't scale. So, if you can, get on a plane, go see somebody. When we used to, at an old business, sell to the retailers, we'd actually, for a retailer, go and build a fake version of a Walmart aisle, or we'd go do a custom video just for Target. Go and do those things and go out of your way. Customers appreciate it. If you're just sending them this, same BDR email you're sending to everyone, they know that you don't care about them. But if you go out of your way to do something that's special for them, they will react positively to that and spend time with you.
That's interesting. I like that last one, but I want to jump back up to a couple of the ones at the top. No more order takers. You said we all can agree on that the era those order takers are relatively becoming is dwindling. But how do I become that deal maker, so to speak? How do I create opportunities rather than besides just blasting out 10,000 emails? How are you able to help, or how can I help someone who may not even recognize that they have a problem see that there is a problem?
Yeah.
Any strategy
So,
there?
I'll give you my sort of quick playbook, and we could
Sure.
talk for hours about this, but I'll give you the quick
Yes.
version. So the two people that I've met that are the best salespeople, one is a very senior person at Twilio, and another one is a very senior person at Snowflake.
Mhm.
The person at Snowflake actually just sold I think the second or third largest deal they've ever had. And so I don't know if I can publicly disclose the number, but it is enormous. It's much bigger than you can imagine. So these are folks that have been very successful. So a few things. One, they started as junior, commercial or SMB salespeople, right? They didn't start as enterprise deal makers extraordinaire, knowing how to do this. So it's a journey. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. You'll learn, do the work. So in that mentality, like put on make sure you have the attitude of being someone who's going to learn. So if you don't know something, don't gloss over it. If you don't know how a product works, go learn about it. If you're not sure what statistical significant means, go figure it out. Whether you have to Google it or lean on a friend or go find a mentor, don't let yourself go by a learning opportunity without taking it. I think too many people kind of assume, oh, that's hard and I have other stuff to do. I'm going to go do other stuff. Take the opportunity and learn, because it's going to help you a lot. So second, when you do get these calls and you are sort of doing a discovery call, I think most people fall into one of two camps, which is bad. Either they're basically just asking discovery questions. So they're coming in and like bombarding that person with discovery questions, or they're vomiting information about their current product. Neither is a good model. And I think what you need to learn to do is get into a place where you've done your research, you know generally what this company is, and you have a pretty good inkling what their business challenges are. So you can jump in and tell them how excited you are about their business, have a real conversation with them about what their challenges are, what they're trying to reach, and then wait till they're sort of pushing you for information, and help them understand why what you're doing is so differentiated. I'm not talking about specific features. I'm talking about what is the ethos of the company, that the product that you're selling, like what makes it so different? Why did you guys decide to build this in the first place? And see if that resonates with them. If it does, and they go, yes, that is the way in which we'd like to solve this problem, great, you're in. But it may also be the case that you're not, in which case it's not a good fit, and that's fine. You'd rather find that out fast. I think if you just go through the call and only ask them questions and refuse to do a demo, refuse to tell them about your product, that's just insulting to the buyer. And vice versa, if you walk in and like you're just telling them all about your product, you have no idea if they're the right customer. You don't know what you should be saying to them. So I think finding that balance of having a real conversation is great. And I think like great salespeople figure out how to become friends with their buyers. So the next point would be is identify who your champion is. So you're not just selling to people. You're not just selling in general to a company. There is one person or maybe two people who are going to get your product into that company, make it successful because it's going to do something for them. So find the person who inside that company, it needs a career change, wants to make this successful, needs to show their boss that they can do something different, and get them excited about how this is going to make their career change, how this is going to help their company. And it depends on what that person's goals are. You have to figure it out, but know who that person is. And tell them that you care about them, and say, look, it's clear that you're the one who's going to make this successful. If you're able to sell it in, this is going to work. If you're not, it's not. And so I'm here as a resource to you. Make yourself available to them, call them on their cell phone afterwards, Slack with them, whatever it is, figure out how you're going to help that person bring the product into that business. And to the point I just made, the next piece of advice I always give is get on either a Slack conversation or a text conversation with your champion. I almost think that it should actually be a step in the buying cycle, right? Your VP of sales should be able to ask, are you in an SMS or Slack conversation with your buyer? And if you're not, then you're not doing your job. So it's actually a really important metric because it's showing that they trust you enough to have a real conversation. Will they buy it? I don't know, but they trust you at a different level. So, get that personal conversation. And then at the end, what we were talking about before, learn how to create urgency. So even if they want your product, there may not be in some cases, like their current product is broken and they need it tomorrow. And so there's urgency already. But in many cases, there's not actually urgency. And that business is not only thinking about your product, they're thinking about 50 different things they need to do next year. That individual you're selling to is thinking about 3 or 4 different things they need to do next year. And so you need to understand what it is they're trying to do and figure out how you're going to show them that this is going to be the most important. Or find that it's not, and then help them on their goals anyway, so that by the time next year, you are the most important thing, they're still excited about working with you. So, be an honest broker when it comes to that urgency.
Bro, this is like straight gold. I think we need to pay you for the stuff. So if you guys are listening to Alex, you need to send him a Venmo.
Yeah, I accept Levin cookies, and that's my favorite. So just send me Levin cookies.
There you
That,
go.
or the certain the magnolia pudding, banana pudding is also like very high on my
Oh,
list. Just those two things, and I don't need payment.
dang it, man! Why are you gonna get me like increasing my calorie count just thinking about some of these foods? So
Yeah,
good, man. Um, but go back to some of a couple of points here. I just really want. I feel like if folks just heard this, they can just like gloss over. But that strategy of having that conversation, that text message with that buyer. I mean, I can't tell you, like one of my clients who is like one of the top sellers in his company. This is one practice that he discovered was something that he needed to do, and he put it a part of his sales process. But you're 100% right. The company need to do that, and it's not just like, hey, let me get your number to text you. It's like once you can have that conversation and a point before that you're leading to, like once you can get to the point where you can have that type of natural conversation, it means that they trust you, and it means that there's like they're willing to divulge information to you. Like say we're on a demo right now with me and your team, you should be able to text your champ after that, and they might say, hey, let's jump on a call to debrief real quick. Like that
yeah.
comes from that type of
For
relationship.
sure. And go back to what I was saying about like finding, good match in the discovery calls. Like if you lead with your philosophy and you say, look, the reason why you should use us is we're the product that's, always going to be the most innovative, and it's always going to be the new thing. You may find that the buyers go, yes, I'm the one in the organization that likes bringing new technology in. Now, not only could you build a relationship with them at this company, but they're going to change companies over time, and you can continue to have a relationship with them at multiple companies. On the other hand, if they say, you know what, I'm not the guy that brings in new things, like I'm the one that brings in the sure thing for the huge teams. Now you know that if you switch to the next company, maybe you come back to them and say, hey, I'm at a new company. I know you're the one that loves the sure thing. I'm now with Snowflake. This is the sure thing. Let's go have that conversation. So again, it's about being an honest broker and figuring out, what that person needs and how they want to approach the problem, and you'll do well. And it's not a single turn game. You're going to have multiple opportunities to engage with this person, especially in tech. It's a tiny, tiny world.
Yeah.
And so, assume that over time, somebody's going to ask them for a reference, or somebody's going to ask them for an introduction to you, or whatever it is. And so make sure you treat those people with respect, so don't treat a buyer like there's somebody that you shouldn't talk with. My personal pet peeve is when I go to a company, I won't say who, but go to some, well-known company, and I ask for a quote and nobody gets back to me for 20 days or something. And I'm just like, how do you not have the respect to just email the customer back and just say, hey, you know what? We're very busy for the next 20 days. Even that would be fine. But, don't ghost people. Don't treat them with disrespect. Don't do things that, you wouldn't want on the cover of the New York Times.
Ooh, dang. Y'all put that in the show notes. That needs to be like a click to tweet right there, man. um, I want to also talk about the points. Number 4 was like really, I really enjoyed that. The do things that don't scale. So obviously, like, jumping on an airplane, that's not going to be scalable. But what are some of the things that you've seen that may not scale, but that had that type of effect on prospects?
Yeah, so start with like what I mean by that. So as you grow, I think there's always a balance between, creating new process to make sure that you're able to have a repeatable motion and continuing to do the things that perhaps don't scale as much. So there's always going to be a balance. I think generally at the beginning, people are putting too much process in place before they actually know if something works. So especially at the beginning, when you're sub 10 sellers, you should be doing more things that don't scale. Obviously, as you get much bigger, you can't do that, and so don't do too much. Good examples. Like I was saying, when I used to sell to retailers, we would do custom things for every single meeting. We would spend weeks on prep for a 30-minute meeting because we knew how important it was to sit down with the CMO of Walmart or the CEO of Wayfair or, whoever it was, the SVP at Costco. And so, that helped us do the research, but also showed them how committed we were to making this successful. So I think that's a great one. Boots on the ground, like you were saying, getting on a plane helps quite a lot. The one I encourage, even like at a, even at more scale, which you can do more, is, go to their website and go through their buying flow. Like if you're going to go talk to a company, if you're going to email them, you must, as a requirement, have gone through all of the flows. If you can't buy the product, don't buy the product. If you need it, even buy the product, even better. Because now you can walk in and go, you know what, I used your product and 8 things were good and these 2 things were not so good, even if it's not related to what you're doing. Or hey, like I didn't need it, but I gifted it to my in-law because they really need your product, and here's the feedback they gave me. If you can't actually go and use it yourself, the second best that I often suggest is go onto Google reviews or Trustpilot reviews and read the actual reviews of people who've used it, so you can actually see and feel what they're saying. Um, so I think that's quite helpful. And then as you go through, I think you'll find opportunities where you can do this stuff. So the other one that I really like is with follow up emails. So if you go and spend 30 minutes with somebody, it is a requirement that you email them on our teams that day. So best in class is to send a thank you email within an hour, but you have to do it within a day. You can't wait. You just had the call. Send them a quick note, tell them what happened, tell them what's going on, thank them for their time. It's politeness, but it will help because the next time you have a conversation, they'll look up that email you sent and they'll know what's going on. So I think just another example of something you can do that's quite helpful.
Bro, so much here, and I want to respect your time. There, listening to this, there are a lot of insights you received today, and this is not the end all be all. These things are going to definitely help you out when it comes towards building pipeline. If there's one major takeaway you want, Alex, for folks to walk away with from our conversation today, what's that one major piece of advice from what you discussed?
It's what I said. Those two best AEs I've ever met. They started out as SMB and commercial AEs who were completely clueless, and so you can figure it out too. Just invest the time, and you can get there. So I have full confidence that like each person, if they take the right attitude and they take the time, they will be able to figure it out.
Love it, man. Let's talk about you for a second here for what you guys are doing. I mean, if there people are interested to learn about you and what your company's doing, and just to be able to connect, well, what's the best way to go about doing so? And maybe give us a little
Yeah.
plug about
So
what you guys do a little bit further. And you kind of give us a
Yeah,
little
so
bit.
we serve B2C businesses that do phone sales, particularly in insurance, lending, healthcare, education, local services, industries like that. If you have a team already or thinking about building a team, we'd love to chat. My co-founder and I used to work at a company that had a 3,000 person outbound team. So we know a little bit
Sheesh.
about this from having done it for years and now having built software for, over 100 companies that are doing this on our platform. So you can just email me at hello@regal.io and we'll go from there.
Love it, man. Well, thank you so much, Alex, for taking the time to come on the show. Appreciate your insights today, man.
Yeah, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, I told you Alex was going to bring it, right? I told you, man. Dude knows what he's talking about. Alex, thank you so much. And if you want to connect with him, you can find all of his information in the show notes. Tell him that you heard about him here on the Sales Evangelist podcast, where we evangelize the effective methods of selling, specifically how you can build better pipeline and how you could close more deals. Now, I want you to try it and I want you to tell us. You can connect with me on LinkedIn as well, Donald C. Kelly, and let me know how this has worked for you, how you're seeing it benefit you and help you out in your sales approach. As always, my goal here is to give you tools and give you strategies and insights that's going to best help you. I want you to connect with our sponsors because they're giving away some amazing stuff that can guide you in that process. Find all the information down in the show notes. I want you to thrive. I want you to build better pipeline. I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking and go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.